Welcome back to Local Decision. Thank you for joining us. I'm Rusty Ray, and we're joined right now by a candidate for Blaine City Council from Ward 1, and it's Jason Smith. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you again.
And you were here, let's say, a couple of years ago.
2 years ago.
Running for what is now Dick Swanson's seat, but is that right?
It was West Hovland.
Okay.
Dick Swanson is this time. He's retiring.
Right.
After.
So going for it again.
Yes.
What's it like going again? Have you retooled, or have you tried a different approach, or have you talked to the same people and making the same channels? How's that going?
Reusing the same channels and stuff. I learned a lot the first time. Running for office is kind of a big undertaking, and you kind of have to figure it out as you go. And now a second time, you made friends in the city and kind of got out all over and got to meet people. And that's what got me to run a second time, was all the great people I met, making a lot of inroads with the people of Blaine and hearing their voices and wanting to represent them still.
Does it feel like you have to spend as much time or the same amount of time kind of introducing yourself and kind of putting yourself on the scene politically, or even personal stuff that people might want to know about you this time around?
It's a little bit less, but this is such a different time with COVID-19. People are less apt to want you there door knocking, so you have to find new ways. I think all political candidates are trying to figure out how to get their message out and meet people and hear from voters and what they want.
Well, given the challenges that are out there right now, why run? Why run again for city council?
Running again because I learned a ton the last time, and I would like to be involved with local government. I like that it's nonpartisan, and that's where things really happen. It's your parks and your roads and things like that, and it's what makes up your day-to-day life. And I found that both interesting and it can be real rewarding, representing.
Well, you've lived here a long time. You said, what, 17 years?
Yep, 17, 18 years. Yep.
And what is it about Blaine that compels you to want to serve? Is there anything specific about the community or about the city and the way things are set up?
It's the great community of Blaine and the people wanting to be represented and to hear their voice reflected in what's going on in the city and in local government. Is
there any specific issue or area of coverage that the city kind of oversees, or anything that's come up lately that kind of draws your interest?
Not particularly at this time. They have the challenge with budget and COVID-19, but they've been doing a great job of managing it in the city. But the budget repercussions, that'll be probably the biggest thing to manage through during the next year.
Because of tax revenue?
Yeah, because of tax revenue. So there's a shortfall, and they couldn't put on certain things that they wouldn't in prior years. The fireworks are a good example because that was from gambling revenue, and then they saw with the Lakes Park, they were able to open it, but it's at a reduced staffing and things like that. So they've just got a lot of choices to figure out how to go financially, how to move forward.
So as you've watched this unfold and as you've seen maybe specific decisions that the city has made, whether it was in the early part of March or then maybe kind of later in the spring or even now, what can you say about the city's response to COVID and the state mandates and guidelines and things like that?
I think the city's done a really fantastic job. I think city manager has been on top of things, and the city reacted with the information that they had and closing parks and things like that. And as things have gotten better, they've reacted by loosening restrictions and trying to let people get back to as much normal as is safe.
Do you think that there's a lot of folks? Are there a lot of folks that you're talking to saying specific things about the city's response that you have had dialogue about, or maybe are even trying to find out about yourself?
There's been questions about the city's response and why they did things a certain way and who has the decision-making power in the city, and I've tried to respond to those as best I can. But there really haven't been a lot of concerns. I think most people are fairly happy with the city's response, with the information given.
So after this general election, we'll have a new mayor and probably several, or at least a couple new council members. What kind of opportunities do you see before the governing board of the city council that are there with a change in leadership?
With a change in leadership, I think they have a chance to kind of reevaluate where they'd like to head. In the next 5, 10 years, they can take kind of temperature of the city and see where do people want to go with the city. It's been developing very, very quickly over the last decade or two that I've been here. But eventually it's going to start filling up, and what's next for the city? What do they want to, what assets they want to highlight as the benefits of being in Blaine?
What about challenges? Is there anything real specific that you think is a specific challenge facing the city that it maybe has already started to try to tackle, or maybe you think needs to find a new way to tackle?
I think infrastructure has been a tough thing for the city in the past, but they need to come up with a strong maintenance plan and understand that they are keeping up and making progress going forward, that we're not letting our infrastructure age, particularly in the south part of Blaine that's a little bit older. The new developments get a lot of new roads and attention right now, but there's still older sections of Blaine that haven't got the same amount of attention. I'd like to see those parks get some attention as well as the roads and infrastructure.
I was going to ask, you say infrastructure, do you mean mainly roads, but are you talking about other amenities? And
Yes, yeah. Yeah, a city center or a community center could be up for debate again in the next 10 years. I know that there was an attempt 6 or so years ago, and I've heard a lot of feedback, both pros and cons for doing that. Some of it was the way it was approached last time, but be interesting once we get past COVID and the response to that is that something we want to make another go at, or partnering with a YMCA or something like that?
Mm-hmm. What do you think Blaine's identity is, both kind of in the larger Twin Cities or even the state of Minnesota? Do you think there's a specific way that Blaine is represented or Blaine is thought of on a larger scale?
I think it's seen as a kind of a sports and entertainment hub. With the NSC, tons and tons of families. People know of Blaine going to the NSC for soccer tournaments. If anybody's at all involved in soccer, they've been up here to play in games like that. And then the TPC golf tournament has brought a lot of attention to Blaine. And it's great to see the PGA here and that they'll be playing in a few weeks. I think that's what people recognize Blaine as, kind of place to go for outdoor and sporting activities, and a great and developing park system.
And continued development, particularly on the east side out towards Lexington Avenue.
Yes.
And those communities there, and starting to hear a lot of things vocalized from that community about specific kinds of development that they do or don't want, mixed use type things.
Yep.
So there's a lot of listening to that involved.
Yeah, there's a lot of harder decisions in zoning and development now, because Blaine used to be fairly open and you could put something in and you weren't next to something else. That is no longer true in Blaine. So there's going to be a lot of feedback, and that'd be one of the things I want to see from the city, is a plan about how we are going to expand in Blaine, and how do you get the community involved, and how that's going to happen, and what the city can control and what it can't. The city can't bring in specific businesses. They can encourage businesses to come, but they're a private entity, and they can choose to participate in Blaine or not.
So something more than just, say, a comp plan, but like a strategy or,
yep.
a plan of communication.
Yep, a development strategy specific, and just a thoughtful way about how we're going to grow, and getting the community involved with what can go where and what people would like to see.
So on election night or after election night 2 years ago, did you think you would run again right then? Did you say, I'm going to try this again?
I did. I did think I was going to try again. I made a lot of progress. I learned a ton on the road. I met a lot of fantastic people, and the fact that I got within 1%, I felt really good about it. Coming from just knowing my immediate neighbors to knowing almost an entire third of 60,000 people was very rewarding, and it was great to get to know people and get to know more communities outside of just my immediate neighborhood.
In the meantime, have you been very actively following meetings and procedures and things that have passed, and discussions and things like that as well, that the city has been doing?
Yes, yeah, I very closely follow the city minutes, and when I can, I've been checking into city council meetings, or now recently watching them online.
Okay. Anything you want to say as we wrap up here? Anything specific you want folks to know about you or where you're coming from as you run again for city council?
Not terribly specific. If people want to check out where I stand on specific issues, they can visit my website or Facebook page. I'm just proud to be able to represent Blaine and the people of the city.
Okay. Jason Smith, thank you for coming by today.
All right, thank you.